Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Good afternoon, my dear friends. On behalf of Pratidin Media Network, on behalf of Hadin Pratidin Gusti, I, Sunit Bhuya, extended a warm welcome to all of you to this very interesting session. Before we start, my dear friends, I want to draw your attention few issues. More or less, we all know about the recent ethnic conflict of Manipur. Even the unrest of Manipur got attention, the international fraternity also. My dear friends, from May 2023 till now, more than 220 people lost their precious lives in Manipur. Do you believe? More than 60,000 people become homeless. And till now, the Manipuri people, the women of Manipur, the children of Manipur, and the senior citizens of Manipur have been staying in the relief camp, which is very pathetic, very sensitive. Under this situation, under these circumstances, the question raised in our mind, yes, is Manipur really far away from the capital of India? My dear friends, before going into the depth of the subject, I would like to kindly request to all of you, please stand and pray for a minute for your souls who lost their lives in Manipur. We need peace. Please stand. Thank you. And now I want to come with Dr. Angomcha Bimol Akoijam, sir. Sir, first of all, you are most welcome to my session. And sir, we saw when you first come to the parliament, you strongly raised the present problem of the Manipur. Strongly raised. You strongly criticized the role of both government, Imphal and Delhi. After that, I think it's 11 September 2024, you wrote a letter to the Home Ministry of India with deep anguish. You wrote, sir, the present situation of Manipur evokes the memory of partition of India in 1947. First of all, I want to know from you, sir, what the result, what the reply you get from the Home Ministry of India, as well as the Honorable Home Minister of India?
Not a single reply as of now. That's a reminder. First of all, thank you for inviting me here, and it's a pleasure. For me, this kind of a formal occasions, which I have attended in Kerala as well, in the Monorama Conclave, this is a platform for me to communicate to you the pain and anguish that I personally go through, as much as my people in my home state have been going through for the last 17 months. So I hope that just as you stood up for a minute, all of you have a clarity about what's been happening there, and whatever we could do as a citizen of this country, we must be chipping in. That's my feeling behind why I have come here. So coming back to it, I didn't get an answer from the Home Minister. I didn't expect an answer from him either. All that I'm expecting here is that he heeds to what I have written in that letter and act upon it. It is hoping against hope. But I have to write it because since I'm representing my people and I have to express ways to deal with it. And so that's the reason I gave the background of the context of how Manipur comes into the Indian Union, in fact, how the Indian Union was constituted in 1947 and what are the responsibility of the government of India vis-a-vis with Manipur. Those are the stuff that I've written. I've given concrete 10 steps that the government in India must do it in order to restore normalcy in Manipur.
But sir, why the Home Minister? Why did you not write the letter to the administrative hub of our country, administrative head of our country?
I think our Prime Minister is too busy with foreign affairs and visiting Ukraine and
But Manipur
US.
is our part, sir.
That's what I've been asking. This will go down in history. The first time you see the Prime Minister of a country don't bother. In fact, the CM of that state even had not had an audience, it seems, a proper audience to discuss about these issues. And he had met all kinds of chief ministers from different parts. This will definitely go down in history. The strangest conduct of a prime minister. I mean, it's nothing to do with my party or his party. It's beyond party politics. It is about his Raj Dharma and character as a statesman and a prime minister of a country like India. It speaks volumes. I mean, so I don't want to appeal to him much, but I hope that Mr. Amit Shah is involved. And I have this impression that he is in touch with the chief minister and so on. So, and besides, he is the home minister, so I thought I'd rather write to him than to the prime minister.
Sir, I think it was 1st October 2024. The Chief of Indian Army, General Upendra Dwivedi, clarifies that the unrest of Manipur, the conflict of Manipur, which was held in May 2023, he clarifies that that conflict started with a false rumor, being the Anglo-Kuki War centenary was being burnt. And he confirms that that was not. Then who were the culprits, sir? And why the state government of Manipur? I want to know your views. Why the state government of Manipur in that time could not solve the problem in initial stage?
You know, first of all, I think General Dwivedi's statement, you need to clarify a couple of things. He is rather talking about the spark on the 3rd May, but the things have been building up, depending on your perspective, what kind of you know, it's like in our social science, since I come from academics. You know, there's a saying in our social science that when you analyze the present, it casts a shadow. And how far is the shadow, it depends on your perspective. So it's the 3rd of May, if you want to analyze that moment, you have to go back a little in the background and you can see things. So first of all, things have been developing, and the way he said about this incident in that gate, it's not a rumor. And I've said this before, and this is part of a propaganda that justifies the violence. Because if it is a rumor, you will not get to hear the same argument ad nauseam on national media, repeated by Kuki intellectuals and politicians. That first, you know, that the gate was burned or destroyed, and different terminologies they would use it. And that's how people responded, kind of thing. So it's not a rumor. It is a part of a narrative to justify and explain why houses were burned down in Torbung areas and violence occurred. So it's not a rumor. That, first of all, we need to know that. And, you know, on that day, you should also mark something. The first time you see sophisticated arm, there were Kuki, 3 or 4 of them. It appeared around 3 to 3:30 in the afternoon, which is available. Nobody has raised a question. Who were those armed men which were part of the mob? So that presence of a sophisticated arm was visible on the 3rd afternoon in Torbung areas. These are the things that we need to know. And then I need to make one more comment on General. It is rather disappointing. I'm an admirer of Indian Army, Indian Armed Forces. You know, I also, while I was a young man, I once dreamed about joining the defense forces, particularly Air Force. I have a deep respect for these troops, but unfortunately, some of the statements made by our armed forces leaders retire particularly, and I hope that General Dwivedi did not give that kind of a interview. They should give away themselves as far as possible. But during this regime, Modi regime, we saw that Indian Army chiefs started speaking, which is not quite expected in a democracy where the military chiefs should not be making politically controversial or politically sensitive issues. That's my belief, and he said about is a battle of narratives. Unfortunately, the armed forces have become part of that battle of narratives. They join. I'll give you one example. There's Assam Rifle ex-DZP, DZ. General Nair said that the violence started more or less simultaneously in Imphal and Churachandpur, which is factually incorrect. You go, any journalist will know that the violence started in Churachandpur and Torbung area, then it spilled over in other places. But it has created an impression, which is a widespread impression, especially among my communities, that the Assam Rifle is partisan in its approach. It almost sounds like it is consolidating. Assam Rifle's slogan is that friends of the hills. So in a Carl Smithian sense, it becomes friends of the hills and
yes,
enemy of the plain kind of a situation.
Sir, not only the Assam Rifles, not only from your side, and other aspects of Manipur and outside also, they has been sharply criticized the rule of central security agencies in Manipur.
That is why,
what
this
is
is one of the most unfortunate, besides the people losing homes and, people losing life. One of the most saddest part of this crisis is the manner in which state institutions get eroded and the chaotic nature in which the officials have behaved, the institutions have conducted themselves. Among these sad scenario, I think the manner in which these retired officers started competing each other, DZ of the BSF saying against the Assam Rifle coming up something against it, I think they should have been a little reticent and keep it to themselves. And General Dwivedi coming into the scene is all the more sad for me because he is a serving chief. And I didn't expect him to be. If you analyze it, I have analyzed it a couple of times. I watched it very carefully, around about 4 minutes and some second on Manipur in that interview. I desperately wish that he did not say all those things, and Indian Army's professional image remains intact. But unfortunately, that has not been the situation that we have in Manipur. But coming to that one, that is one of the reasons, where police competing with Assam Rifles and army competing with this. These are state institutions supposed to take care of the law and order and security. They are not supposed to work against each other. And look at the manner in which the intelligence input has been shared and retracted. It is a mockery of professionalism that we have. Manipur has shown almost like India's potential to become a banana republic. That's the way I look at it. So, factors that you are looking at, this is something for rest of us. It's very serious. And I believe that there is something more than the cookies and the maitais in this whole state of affairs. And this conduct of these, officers and officials tells very clearly that there's something more than you see. It's not merely a conflict between cookies, and many people have been bold enough to say that India's deep state is involved in the crisis, and that is one of the reasons why they have allowed this crisis to go on, to achieve certain kind of political goals or strategic goals. That is a very serious issue, and that will show the erosion of a democratic ethos that we have it, and how in places, especially in Northeast. I need to give you this context. I have been arguing as a social science students for a long, long time. What was Okinawa to Japan, or the Cebu in Philippines? Northeast India is seen through a kind of a schizophrenic lens. We are a Republican democratic space as part of this country. At the same time, it is also a militaristic space. You know, remember that Okinawa was not directly run by the United States State Department. Till 1972, it was under Pentagon. So the Defense Ministry and Army has a lot to do in the Northeast. So we are not as rest of the country. I think that complication has revealed in this crisis as well.
But sir, I agree to some extent with you. But use of weapons by the Manipuri peoples, it's a normal incident. The term when the violence going to peak, the peak time of the violence, we sent my reporters to the Manipur for the ground zero report. But sir, whose visuals recorded by my video journalist, they were very sensitive. They reflect the lawlessness situation of the Manipur. You are a public representative. You are representing the Manipuri peoples to our lower house. What is the fact? What is the practical reasons of this situation, lawlessness situation? Why the government fail repeatedly?
You know, that this is what, you know, lawlessness, when I said we have a schizophrenic framing of the Northeast, it is where the military has a lot to do. We are seen through the strategic and security lens all the time. At the same time, we are simultaneously a part of a Republican democratic space. Yes. And that contradiction is where the normal rule of law has been sort of jeopardized. It has normalized. If you go back in French Revolution, for instance, in the late 18th century, there were clear-cut demarcation between where the military and civil authority should work. You have a space where the civil authority commands everything. There is where you have a distinct sphere where both military and the civil work. And there are areas where military takes over. That was an injunction in the French Parliament in the late 18th century. So this particular thing, or for that matter, people talk about Julius Caesar crossing Rubicon in 49, was the beginning of the end of the Roman Republic and stuff like that. So this civil-military relation in the Northeast or in Kashmir is something that our scholars and anybody should reflect on this. So we are not normally the normal way of looking at democracy and republic. We are not. Northeast in Kashmir is slightly different. And that is why the lawlessness has an inbuilt character in that one. And Armed Forces Special Power is a classic example of that paradigm. Now here, that's what I said, on the third afternoon, you saw among the mob, it is visual images, in video, armed Kuki men were involved in burning down houses and destroying and vandalizing things in Torbung areas. That was sin. Much before these arms were looted in Imphal or violence erupted in Imphal. This is a picture that you saw it. People should have been worried, who are these guys who are holding AK-47? Unfortunately, I don't want to take the name. Well-known people started twisting that image, saying that these are armed Maitai men disrupting peaceful tribal rally. It's a complete disinformation. It was widely shared by a renowned activist on Twitter and in their handles and so on. I was shocked. But for the government of India, that should have been an alarming moment. How come among the mob, there were armed AK-47 wielding men were there in Torbung? This is on the third afternoon. Uski baad kya hua? We have seen. It's almost history now. I've been saying this. Everybody roaming around with arms. It's like what had happened in Afghanistan or Rwanda or anywhere places. How is it possible India to be like this? It's been something that I've been saying from the day one. And I've been appealing to the government of India. My first press interview, it was on 21st May, it was telecasted. Therein also I said, the state, writ of the state must work. The state must rein in this violence. I've been consistently saying, you know, state is a state precisely because you monopolize the legitimate use of physical force. When you do not assert that power and you allow people to roam around with arms like this, It's like a civil war. It's a failed state. And that's why I call it a Hobbesian war. Manipur has been like this since 23rd, and the state has abdicated its responsibility. And we think we are a great country with 5th largest economy and 4th most powerful military in the world and stuff like that. We're a democracy. And I'm sorry to say that, within quote, the national media has done a terrible job. I have done a study on this, which is based on media studies, theories and methods. It's available, by the way, online, and the book form is coming out again. It's against all the norms of your Press Council of India's standard. It is worked against it. So in fact, Manipur is a reminder that all of us as citizens of this country, as professional media men, as security agencies, not only politicians, all of us have failed. We have failed terribly. And that is something that we must accept. Everywhere, you cannot have this kind of a situation in a constitutional democracy like this.
Sir, you wrote that letter, you wrote the livelihood of Manipuri people and the economy of Manipur in general severely affected by the prolonged unrest and the lawlessness situation of Manipur. But sir, we saw in that time the Chief Minister of Manipur played a drama whose name is resignation. And parallelly, the role of central government is not remarkable to solve a long-term. They have no long-term plan. We saw what do we saw. You are a public representative, and you talk with the general people of Manipur. What they want, what they say to the government of state government, Imphal, and to the government of Delhi.
You know, this is something that another layer of the abnormality that we have seen in Manipur, besides I have given you a lot of examples,
exactly,
is about, say, look at this, 355 is being imposed or not. Right from the beginning, remember on the 4th of July, on May, the next day,
yes,
Kuldeep Singh was appointed as security advisor. Okay, it doesn't have much of an executive role. That's understandable at one plane. But in the same month, on 31st of that month, he was appointed as the chairman of the Unified Command, which is people call it Unified Command. Technically, it's called Unified Headquarters, which is a body, you have representative of the, the army, the paramilitary like Assam Rifles, BSF, CRPF, Manipur Police, Intelligence, IB, everybody there. This is to coordinate their security and law and order operations. That was given to Kuldeep Singh. And that's why I sense that this is a facade. And a lot of activities of this chief minister has shown to us that he is following orders from Delhi. He says, the hill will be taken care of by Amit Shah, I'll take care of the valley, which is unheard of for a CM of a state, that part of the state is under me and part is under, there is no precedence rule, nothing of that kind. So it is an extra constitutional subversion of federal structures. I have warned us in an interview with Karan Thapa that today it may be Manipur, when you have such a very powerful central government, the federal structure can be eroded. Way back in the Constituent Assembly, Ambedkar said about this law and order as a domain of the state. He calls it as a sovereign plenary power or authority of the state, which has been completely eroded. That is something that has been done. And then Amit Shah said on the floor of the House that CM is cooperating. And on the other side of the coin, the CM says, whatever I am doing is with the consent, within quote, consent and advice of Modi ji and Amit Shah ji. So it's a peculiar way in which the constitutional structure of the federal polity has been subverted. This is aiding to the example of the lawlessness. So when you think about fixing responsibility, I hold the government of India as majorly responsible for this, but by saying this, I don't absolve of the local satraps, like our chief ministers, and it should be fixed responsibility, but I think I still hold that it is the government of India which should be blamed, which should take the major responsibility for this crisis.
Sir, a few minutes earlier, Union Parliamentary Affairs Minister Kiren Rijiju was here. And he said that Prime Minister of India, Narendra Modi, says, entire people from Red Fort, entire people of the country with the Manipurs. He claimed that central government and Narendra Modi with the Manipuri peoples, and he questioned to your leaders, Rahul Gandhi. Rahul Gandhi said that Rahul can bring peace within 24 hours in Manipur. And he questioned to Rahul Gandhi that if the leader of the opposition want to kill the Manipuri peoples, through killing the Manipuri peoples, he can bring the peace in Manipur. What do you?
That's an excuse. We have already, see, violence have happened in many senses. It is only killing and destroying is not violence. The humiliation that people go through in relief camp is a form of violence. I happen to have some experience while doing studies on partition of this country while I was working in CSDS on partition of this subcontinent. And many of the experiences people go through in the camp, say for example in Delhi we have Kingsway camp, is the remnant of those refugee camps and so on. Double story, single story, this in North Delhi. We must remember that those experiences have shaped a peculiar cultures which last even today. Those humiliations, those trauma that people have gone through it. These are your sensitivity that you should know that violence is everyday forms of violence. Those people in the relief camp, I have been there, you will cry. Where they take bath, where father-in-law, mother-in-law, sister-in-law. It's a completely, to me, it is the same case studies that I have studied and I was coordinating our field research during that project. I have seen in life, flesh and blood in Manipur today. So, killing, if is an example of that one, I think the government of India does it. In 24 hours, I can tell you, if today the Prime Minister says something like this, each and every army unit or central troops, if any loss of life or property in and around your area of operation, you will be taken to task if this is allowed. If the Prime Minister says like this, and if he calls all his BJP MLAs, remember that Biren's cabinet has been called a communal government, Maitai government, but you have two cabinet Kuki ministers in that government. Still, it's a completely schizophrenic sense we have it. You kuch kehta hai, you don't fit in, that is the chaos. And sometimes I believe as Chanakya once said, like if you can't convince people, make them confused. So I get a feeling that the government of India is trying to do is to confuse the people of Manipur so that they can achieve 2-3 strategic and political, goals they have set up through this violence. And I think that is why it is an excuse that, not killing. If you have cracked down, even if you have killed it 200, 300, life would have been normal by now if you assert it. So I'm giving you two simple examples. If the Prime Minister says all our security forces, if the loss of life, if anything happened in and around your area of operations, you will be taken to task. Do you think that these army units would have not reacted? Remember that despite APSPA being there in Churachampur, Maitai villages have been wiped out. Yes. How does it happen? You have CRPC 131 section, under which even you don't get a permission from the magistrate. If anything of the public tranquility is disturbed, you are supposed to respond. So with or without APSPA, all the available forces, remember that we have at least, to the best of my knowledge, two divisions of Indian Army combined with the Assam Rifles, which is amount to around 20-25 soldiers, 1,000 soldiers. And despite that 60,000 people lost homes, 200 plus people have died, and you can't travel from one to another. This has never happened. One community can't travel onto the other space. And I often say today, I think rest of you, I'm just appealing. Think about if two divisions of Indian Army, it is like 20 to 25,000 soldiers. If they are doing a peacekeeping mission in Congo or in Africa, and the same situation happened, what would have been the judgment on the Indian peacekeeping force? This is not even a UN assignment. This is your own country. So I think, we We must go beyond this binary of Kuki and Meitei, and as if you're watching like the Europeans have been criticized about you are watching and didn't respond in Rwanda because you think that is happening out there in Africa. So rest of the country is watching, oh, Kukis and Meiteis are fighting 17 months, people must try to talk to each other. That's not the way. I mean, systematic failure is what I'm sharing with you.
Sir, I have no more time. We have a Q&A also, but two more questions, and I want to answer briefly. So first, we have a organization, namely Northeast Democratic Alliance, NEDA.
NEDA.
What's your view on NEDA regarding this conflict of Manipur?
I'm sure, it might be a little uneasy for if any friends here who is supporter of BJP and so on. I think BJP has a unique track of associating with regional party and eating them up, gobbling them up. So I think NEDA is that experiment they have done in the Northeast to, look at Shiv Sena, they associate, it crumbles. Kashmir, the Mufti Muhammad, you associate, you crumble. So they have a very good way of associating with. In fact, I have heard this on interview years back, one of the BJP cadres leaders saying this about. You associate with them and slowly you eat their base and their legitimacy. So Northeast has a lot of this regional aspiration. In your state, AGP for me, it's I'm sorry to say, what happens, the convergence between Hindu rights and Akoijam nationalism. Incidentally, one of my students had done a PhD on that from Assam. It's interesting to see. So NEDA to me is BJP's ploy to deal with the regional aspirations and political parties and how to get inroad into the Northeast, which is supposed to be the bastion of the Congress. I think NEDA to me is nothing but that agenda.
My last question, I want to answer very briefly. Why do you join politics and why do you choose the Congress?
Yeah, joining politics, you mean party politics, electoral
choose
politics.
The Congress party, and I added, in 2027, can you go again to the Imphal?
No, see, we are all political. I'm very political. Even as an academic in the last 31 years of my professional life as an academic, I've been very outspoken. I write columns in newspaper. I join public protests and stuff like that. The Northeastern girls have been treated differently here. Right from my student days, even as a teacher for the last 31 years, I go and join the protests. I'll speak up on the media about these things. And so I've said funny things, rhetorical things. I said something like, the way you look at the Northeast, this is supposed to be not said, but I've said sometimes very bluntly. The colonizers always try to achieve a sense of superiority by calling the native women as promiscuous and loose moral and so on. So I think it's quite similar to that one. You think Northeastern girls are like this, promiscuous and loose character. I said if the hot pants, spaghettis, and miniskirts are only worn by the girls from the Northeast, many boutiques in Delhi would have gone bankrupt long time back. So I've been speaking out. So I'm a very political animal that way. But what you meant by joining politics is party politics and electoral politics. Even I would argue we are all part of electoral politics as voter. The other side is the candidate. I've decided to join as a candidate, to be inside. I've been shouting and writing and advising these politicians for the last 30 plus years. And I realized that it doesn't work much. So it's far better go inside the system and do it. I know the challenges. I cannot be the same. Why Congress? I celebrate diversity. I love diversity. This country is beautiful precisely because of the diverse cultures. I have taught students from Kanyakumari to Kashmir, from Gujarat to Nagaland. It's a wonderful country. So I don't want to flatten it. I get a feeling that one nation, one takes, one examination, one this, one that. I think that kind of a flattening, Congress is opposite to that one, is diversity. And I was enticed by Rahulji's statement that India is a union of state. And I truly believe that we come together. That's what I wrote to Ms. Haji as well. It is the coming together of various people, various political formations, state, constituted this country. You should not flatten it. That's why I choose
Congress Party.
Yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Akoijam, sir.
Yeah.
Mernal, have you time for the Q&A?
I'd like to take a couple of questions from the students and the other audience. Already, Foreign Minister is on his way. But please be quick and answer. Your answers should be also quick so that there are more questions. Abhinav Borgohain, the first one. Where is Abhinav? That's Abhinav Borgohain. So please send the mic there. Yeah, thank you. Abhinav, go ahead.
Sir, my question is basically that even after the Lok Sabha's elections that we saw in Manipur, despite the severe defeat of the ruling government at the present point of time, we do not see them giving the amount of attention that Manipur should have gotten in respect to the election results. So what do you aspire as an MP, Manipur MP, for the government to do the particular work in the state?
My job is to, what I have been teaching to my student, that Northeast is included India through an act of exclusion. That's something that I have been saying in my academic world. I need to tell the same thing to the larger audience now beyond my students and professional social science students, that the way the Northeast is in this scheme of things, this country, that's my task.
One follow-up question, sir?
And that is why you are saying
No.
that attention nahi mila bola na.
Yes, sir.
It's because it's been excluded. It is out of the frame. It's out of mind, out of sight. You know, that's the same thing. You know, you read a very famous novel by a black writer called Elysian called The Invisible Man. And as a black man, I am not visible. I am invisible to you, but I exist in flesh and bone as a man, but it is your white man's lens that makes me invisible. So I think the youth of Northeast must start saying these things and understand the process. So I'm going to do it in a political realm now.
Thank you, sir.
What a question, answer. Supratim Gautam, where are you? Yeah, that's Supratim. Go ahead, Supratim, fire your question.
So my question is that, do you think there is outside involvement, especially of foreign intelligence agencies, in the conflict in Manipur, especially in terms of arms trafficking and funding?
I would endorse this view. That is one dimension of the conflict. There is an international dimension, which is not only on the armed trafficking, but also on drugs, as well as strategic calculation of some big powers, which is trying to find Northeast as a site of interest for them. So I think, and that's implicated in this issue as well.
Harshita Setia. Come on, all are from the same table.
Thank you, sir, for such an insightful question. Sir, I think my question to you is that, given the tensions in Manipur and challenges for minorities globally, can democracy, which is mostly centered around majority rule, truly accommodate minority voices, or is it like an utopian deal? Considering or noting the point that you've mentioned, that how the issue of Manipur is something which is not only about party politics.
See, I think whether you like it or not, democracy is the best form of arrangement that we have to deal with differences, and differences would also mean in terms of the number and your cultural practices and so on. So I think democracy essentially gives you this scope to take care of this issue of what you're calling minority. But keep in mind, what is a minority and what is not depends on different dimension and context. I may be a minority in Delhi as a Manipuri, but back home, if you look at me as a Meitei, then my community is the largest in the state of Manipur, not majority. And when you say majority in a numerical sense, it's 50% plus. So it shifts where you are. And Muslim may be a minority in India, but in Jammu and Kashmir, you can't apply that. It's a majority out there. So I think you keep in mind that when you think about minority-majority dimension as well.
I'll take only two more questions, one from Priyambada and second is Hamiran to Timum. So first go Priyambada. Where is Priyambada? You have a googly.
Hello, sir. I wanted to know your views on including the Meitei community in the scheduled tribe list.
You know, this is the politics, and I think I look at Meitei's community demand for scheduled tribe status as a legitimate demand for one reason, because you look at the scheme of things, there is the only way to get a constitutional safeguard for a community like ours. I mean, we are the only, so to speak, Indo-Mongoloid group which is outside of the scheduled tribe list. And that has led to, look at this, 8% of the total area where you are confined. And a lot of things. It's not that people are going to spread and buy lands in the hills, which is impossible.
Okay.
But I think it is definitely a constitutional safeguard, and Meiteis deserve to be included in that list.
One last question, quickly. Time is running out. Hamidon Timung. Where is Hamidon? Yeah, Timung. Go ahead. Straightway.
It's really nice to having interact with you, sir. My question to you is, considering the decades of violence in Manipur, alongside the Indian state's shortfall, do you also think it is also the collective inability or lack of zeal on the part of local intellectuals, academics, the civil society groups, and the lawmakers from Manipur to take any meaningful action?
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you. We have failed ourselves, Northeastern people, and I was looking at Janu Barua and people like Niketu Iralu and all to take a active part in that besides our intellectual. But remember that you need the gut and honesty to critique certain political, practices. In many a time, we reproduces these categories which breeds conflict in the Northeast. This should be my last remark, which is inspired by my one of my mentors in life, Professor Ashish Nandi once said that what we tend to do is that Indians, Bangladeshis, Pakistanis, Nepalese, and Indians will have a conference in Princeton University or Oxford about South Asia, not in Kathmandu or in Colombo or in Delhi or stuff like that. So Northeast suffer from the same thing. We tend to be together if GNU organize a conference or Delhi or in Bangalore and so on. I think Guwahati, Silchar and Kohima and Imphal and Aizol and all these places should be the site where we come together and have a dialogue. Many of my students even don't know. We don't know each other. We don't know our intersections that lies among us. I've asked Assamese students, have you heard about the Manipuri queen of yours called Quiranganeni? Many of them don't know. And many of them don't know, for example, S.D. Burman, the famous music director's mother is a Meitei. And they're shocked, they get shocked like this. So I think there are so many intersections among the Northeast, we don't know each other. And we keep on building walls among each other, and that's dangerous. Where the neoliberal economy is sweeping across, strategic calculation of big power is sweeping across, will be reduced to Cebu and Okinawan fate, with military installations and economic assets owned by global capital. And while we will be still fighting against each other, that I belong to that community, you're from that community, I think especially the youngsters must be able to move away from this ethnic politics. Sooner the better for all of us and your future.
Thank you, Mrinal. Thank you, Dr. Akoijam sir, for your valuable time.
Thank you, it's for my pleasure.
And we have a very interesting session.